Hey, this is Ace here with Hillbilly How To's. Today I'm going to talk about some bank fishing. How to catch a lot of fish off the bank. A lot of varieties, from bass, largemouth, smallmouth, to stripe, to bluegill, drum. You can catch a catfish, a lot of different varieties of fish off the bank. So I'm going to talk to first about picking a spot. What is the best spot to pick for bank fishing? Which some of this depends on what time of year it is, of course, whether your lake is down or not. But just in general, we're going to talk about picking a spot. So first off, excuse the drawing, not a very good drawer. But to get the point across, so as far as looking at the lake and the slope of a bank, so water here, bank here, if you pick a bank that is too shallow, like if this bank went across here, then you're not hitting, any type of deep water. And when I'm saying deep is even, 3 and 4 feet deep, until you're casting, way out here. And if you pick a bank that's too steep, of course it's hard to even stand on, and you don't have a lot of structure on a lot of the cliffs straight down. So if I'm bank fishing, I'm looking for kind of a gradual slope. I'm wanting to be able to cast maybe 30 yards and be able to hit pretty deep water, but still drag my bait through shallow water. I'm looking for a lot of structure. I like rocks is my favorite. Most time if you've got rocks up here on the bank, especially like big boulders, that means that it's extending on out into the water. And as far as your bank slope, will tell you a lot on how the land actually lays. It'll tell you kind of how deep it's going out into the water. One thing that I use is navionics.com. And you can actually, if you pull up navionics.com, there's a chart viewer right in the center top of the page that you can click on and actually zero in to whatever spot that you're going to pick. And you can kind of see how the ground lays underneath the water. So I'm looking for a gradual slope, looking for rocks. That's my go-to. If there's a tree down, that's great. Fish like close to the tree. But I use, to catch a lot of variety, gulp minnows, 2.5 inch gulp minnows. They do make like a 1 inch, a 3 inch, and I think even a 4 inch. This is my preferred. If you go to a 1 inch, you're going to catch a lot of small fish. You're going to catch more fish going to the 1 inch, but you'll catch a lot of small, like bluegill and stuff. If you go to 2.5, you'll still catch bluegill, but most of the time they'll be bigger bluegill. And I feel like I get the most variety of even bigger fish, like largemouth, smallmouth bass. Caught a few pretty large drums with this bait. And even catfish. I randomly catch a catfish just about every time I go with this bait. Of course, they're not usually large, under 10-pound catfish, but still they're fun to catch on like a micro reel. So I use like a ultralight reel. This one's a Shakespeare. This one was, I think, $18 at Walmart. And this rod was about $18 at Walmart. This reel is a Shakespeare reel, also at Walmart. I think I paid like $11 for this. This line is 6-pound test. I prefer anywhere from 2 to 6 pound. I stay in that range. If I'm, ultralight fishing. I think this was like $2. It's also like a Walmart brand, cheap line. And then I've got the jig head. This is a 1/32 ounce jig head, and then I put the gulp minnow on this. All right, with the gulp minnow and the jig head, so turn the minnow upside down. Honestly, you can catch fish with the minnow upside down or right side up. You can flip it, either way will catch fish. I haven't really noticed much of a difference. I usually start out with him, right side up, which is the dark side, but putting it on the jig head, I turn him upside down, sliding him in. And the biggest thing is you want to make sure he's as straight as possible. You want to kind of measure before you put him on there to get a kind of an idea of where you want to stick this through. But you want him as straight as possible and his nose all the way up to the jig head there. So when fishing the jig head and the gulp minnow, when fishing it, I cast down as far as I can cast. I let it drop. I usually click my bell, cast, do one turn, click the bell, because a lot of fish will hit it on the drop, so I want to be ready for that. Have my drag set where if something big hits it, it will take a little drag and not break my line, especially if I'm fishing, light. I flip my bell, but I will still give it a little bit of line because I want it falling as straight as possible down, and I want it to hit bottom. So I give it maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and let it fall all the way until I can feel that it has hit bottom. And then I slightly just jig it. So let this fall down, hit bottom, and then I slightly jig it up. So just twist a little bit, let it hit bottom, twist a little bit, let it hit bottom. And if you're using light line, ultralight reel and rod, you can feel it, when it hits bottom. And then I dance it along these rocks. Now, if you're fishing in structure, which is where you're going to catch the most fish, you're going to get hung up sometimes. But I mean, you'll just have to break the line and retie. That's where you're going to catch the fish. So you're going to have to take a chance on getting hung up. But the more you do this, the more you get where you can feel the bottom and feel what's under there. I can tell you, I've done it so much now that I can tell you that's a rock or that's a limb just by how it's bouncing off of the items. So I can gently, and when I feel that I'm hanging, then I'll give it a little bit of line, I'll pull some line out, shake it a little bit and shake it loose. If it does get hung in a limb, most of the time I can put a little pressure on it and pull, and it'll jerk loose with these little jigs. So you just gotta kind of work your way, feel your way across the bottom. You want to stay on that bottom and just lightly bring it up through here. Now you're going to catch different fish. Of course, you're going to catch bigger fish. Most them in the deeper waters, and smaller fish, once you get closer to the top. This is all going to depend on what year it is: spring, winter, fall, summer, depending on where the fish are suspended. And if you don't have an ultralight reel, of course you can use whatever reel, whatever rod you want to. I recommend, some type of ultralight or at least light reel if you're going to be using like the small 2.5-inch gulp minnow, just because you're going to catch a lot more fish. You can control your bait a lot better at working it across. You can cast it better with an ultralight. You're going to have a lot better results by going light. My rule of thumb is whatever I'm trying to catch, I'll rig just a little bit higher, but not much. Like if I'm shooting for a lot of variety and I'm wanting to catch anything from 4 pounds to under, then I might use either a 4 or 6 pound test line. But I don't want to go too much higher. I don't want to be using 20-pound test line trying to catch, a 4-pound bass. Because once you go up in line, you can't control your line as better. You can't feel the bottom as better. It takes the fun out of it too. When you do catch a small fish on very thick line, very heavy reel, it takes the fun out of it. You can't even hardly feel it, bringing it in. As far as price too, like the Shakespeare rod and reel, with the 2-pound test, everything that I've showed you, the gulp minnows, the jig heads, everything, added it all up, and it's actually $50 if you don't have any items. If you don't have a rod and reel that you want to try this out, it's about $50. But you will catch a lot of fish, a lot of variety. And of course, there's many ways of fishing a bank, different styles. You can use, the floater with the worm on it, which is fine. This is just my opinion. This is what I do, if I want to catch a lot of fish in one day and have fun doing it. This is how I do it. So it's just my opinion, basically. Fishing that bank, like I was talking about, bringing it up the hill, I feel like I even do better, fishing from a bank than even in the boat, just because with the bank, if you're bank fishing and you can pull it up the bank this way, I feel like I can fish this a lot better than if I'm sitting here in a boat and I'm dropping it here. Because when I drop it here and I start reeling, my line starts getting shorter and shorter as I'm reeling it to work it. And then, I'm off the bottom by the time it gets back to the boat and I'm not fishing this deep water. So usually if I'm fishing from a boat and I'm fishing this same bank, then I'll cast it out, drop it, work it a little bit, and then I'll give some line. I'll pull my drag and give some line and keep doing that to try to stay on the bottom, all the way to the bottom. And, you can even, in a boat, drop it to the bottom and just kind of bounce the jig kind of down at the bottom also. So I hope this helps someone.